Broom, let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. The joint security area in the DMZ will have a different vibe to it soon as the two Koreas and the UN command agree to withdraw guard posts and firearms from the area in the coming days. Further reducing tensions, North Korea will halt live fire artillery drills and close gun ports along the northern limit line in the West Sea beginning November 1st. Plus, the sweltering summer we had to endure in South Korea pushes producer prices in the country to their highest level in more than 5 years in September as supplies dwindled. Our top story this morning, though, the two Koreas and the UN command have agreed to withdraw guard posts and firearms at the joint security area by Thursday. It's the latest significant step towards building trust and hopefully lasting peace on the Korean peninsula. Our Park Ji-won starts us off.
Military officials from South Korea, North Korea, and the United Nations Command held talks on Monday for about 3 hours at the Freedom House in Panmunjom. The meeting aimed to verify the completion of the 20-day demining work that began at the joint security area at the start of October, as well as to discuss the reduction of the number of guard posts and security personnel.
This meeting aims to verify and evaluate the demining process at the joint security area in Panmunjom and to discuss the timeline and details of how to jointly examine the removal of firearms, reduction of guard posts, and adjustment of the number of patrolling personnel in the area.
This was the second three-way meeting this month, following last week's very first meeting between the three sides. Last month's comprehensive military agreement, signed by the defense ministers of the two Koreas, states that the three parties will completely withdraw guard posts, personnel, and firearms within 5 days of the completion of minesweeping at the joint security area in Panmunjom. Thus, according to the agreement, the three sides decided Monday that they will complete the withdrawal of firearms and guard posts within the JSA by October 25th. This will be followed by a 2-day joint on-site inspection and evaluation of the withdrawal. Meanwhile, another set of general-level inter-Korean military talks will be held this Friday on the North Korean side of Panmunjom to further discuss the ongoing projects related to the implementation of last month's comprehensive military agreement. The two sides are also expected to discuss how to form and conduct the Inter-Korean Joint Military Committee, through which the two Koreas had agreed to discuss major military issues, including large-scale military exercises, various forms of blockade, and the prohibition of reconnaissance activities. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, starting from the 1st of November, North Korea is set to halt all forms of live fire artillery drills and close gun ports along the northern limit line, the de facto sea border between the two Koreas. Such measures come as South and North Korea agreed to establish maritime buffer zones in accordance with the military accord the two sides signed last month in Pyongyang. Along its western coast, the North has some 1,000 gun ports and numerous artilleries with a maximum range of 27 kilometers. The two Koreas are steadily building cooperation across a number of fields. The latest area in which they are going to work together is forestry projects. Our Park Ji-jun breaks down what was discussed on Monday when officials from the two sides sat down just north of the border.
South and North Korea have agreed to jointly tackle pine tree pests as well as other tree diseases through March next year as part of efforts to increase forestry cooperation. South Korea will provide the North with the necessary pesticides in November. This came after the two Koreas held forestry talks on Monday at the recently opened Inter-Korean Liaison Office in Kaesong. The South Korean delegation was led by Park Jung-ho, the Deputy Minister of the Korea Forest Service, and the North Korean delegation by Kim Sung-jun from the North's Ministry of Land and Environmental Protection. According to a joint press release, the two sides decided to periodically modernize North Korea's tree nurseries and complete 10 of them by the end of the year. To realize that, South Koreans will conduct field studies in the north. They also agreed to boost joint projects related to the prevention of forest fires and the protection of local ecosystems. They'll also host seminars on science and technology related to forestry. Seoul and Pyongyang will thrash out further details through an exchange of documents.
We discussed detailed practical measures during this round of talks. We reaffirmed our commitment to implement the Pyongyang Joint Declaration and didn't disagree on much.
Since the first Inter-Korean Summit of the year on April 27th, the two Koreas have been pushing to boost cooperation on forestry projects, one of the few fields that does not violate international sanctions against the North. Monday's discussions were the second working-level talk since the first round was held in July. The first meeting led to a joint inspection in the north on pest control and diseases. Park Ki-jun, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in is chairing a weekly cabinet meeting this morning where the Pyongyang Declaration as well as the military agreement agreed by the leaders in September will be deliberated and ratified. This comes as the Ministry of Government Legislation said that unlike the Panmunjom Declaration made in the Inter-Korean Summit that happened in April, the Pyongyang Joint Declaration and the military agreement do not need parliamentary consent, as the agreement in September is aimed at implementing previous declarations. The president is set to give a statement during the meeting, and we'll be sure to cover that for you in our later newscast. British Prime Minister Theresa May has told Parliament that 95% of the terms of Brexit have been agreed, saying she's hopeful the remaining 5% can be resolved soon. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Noah Adam. So Adam, quite an optimistic outlook from the Prime Minister despite some bad headlines in recent days.
That's right, Mark. She asked lawmakers on Monday for patience while the final stages of a Brexit deal are being worked out. She also, meanwhile, ruled out any chances of a second Brexit referendum as demanded by thousands of the British public.
Serving our national interest will demand that we hold our nerve through these last stages of the negotiations, the hardest part of all. It will mean not giving in to those who want to stop Brexit with a politician's vote. Politicians telling the people they got it wrong the first time and should try again.
The key sticking point in Brexit talks is how to deal with the Irish border. European leaders want a so-called backstop agreement whereby Northern Ireland would remain aligned with EU customs arrangements, thereby avoiding the need for border infrastructure. May opposes this because she argues it amounts to splitting the UK into different customs zones. As talks stall, there has been proposals to extend the Brexit transition period for another year. The Prime Minister said she didn't want that to happen, but noted it may be useful for certain situations.
I see any extension or being in any form of backstop as undesirable. By far the best outcome for the UK, for Ireland and for the EU is that our future relationship is agreed and in place by the 1st of January 2021. And, Mr. Speaker, there are some limited circumstances in which it could be argued that an extension to the implementation period might be preferable if we were certain it was only for a short time.
US President Donald Trump says he's still unsatisfied Saudi Arabia's account on the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, but he's also said he still values Riyadh's investments. Take a look.
I don't want to lose all of that investment that's being made in our country. I don't want to lose 1 million jobs. I don't want to lose $110 billion in terms of investment, but it's really $450 billion if you include other than military. So that's very important. But we're getting...
He added that there are US intelligence officers in Saudi Arabia and Turkey working on the case who are scheduled to return home in the next couple of days. Ankara suspects Khashoggi was killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul by Saudi agents and his body cut up. The Saudis have offered conflicting accounts, with some saying he died in a fist fight and others saying he was killed in a rogue operation. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said he will release information about the investigation in a speech on Tuesday. Immigration is likely to be a hotly debated issue in the United States ahead of the midterm elections in 2 weeks' time, as thousands of Central American migrants continue to inch towards the country. US President Donald Trump is calling it a national emergency. Kim Yo-sun tells us more.
A swelling number of Central American migrants are marching towards the U.S., hoping to find a new home, fleeing from poverty, violence, and crime. According to Mexico's local media, a migrant caravan of some 7,000 are moving north as they stand some 1,800 kilometers away from America's southern border as of Monday local time. President Trump took to Twitter on Monday to condemn the caravan movement, explaining that Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador were not able to stop their people from leaving their respective countries to come to the U.S. illegally. In a series of posts, Trump vowed to cut tens of millions of dollars of aid to the 3 Central American nations, calling the migrant caravan a, quote, national emergency for the U.S. Trump and the Republican Party aim to shed light on the immigration issue as part of their campaign ahead of the midterm elections to be held in early November. President Trump, who has made immigration a central part of his platform, aims to hammer home the issue to help the Republicans maintain their hold of the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, the Mega Millions jackpot in the United States has hit an eye-watering $1.6 billion US. The draw happens Tuesday night, local time, and Americans are flocking to stores to snap up tickets, hoping they get lucky. For more on the biggest lottery jackpot in the US history, Lee Seung-jae reports.
1 in 302.5 million. That's the odds of hitting the Mega Millions jackpot and winning an estimated $1.6 billion US. And the Powerball jackpot isn't too shabby either, at an estimated $620 million. With the Mega Millions draw taking place on Tuesday night and the Powerball on Thursday night, the combined jackpot of $2.2 billion is the highest in US history. Mega Million and Powerball tickets are sold in 44 states, plus Washington, D.C. and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Americans are standing in line to buy their tickets, hoping to hit it big. If you're lucky enough to win the Mega Millions jackpot, how will you be paid? If the winner chooses the lump sum payout, the payout will be roughly $904 million. But with a minimum of 24% taken out in taxes, the final payout will be around $684 million, minus state tax. While the $684 million is nowhere near the $1.6 billion in the initial jackpot, it's still a life-alerting amount of money that would instantly make you one of the richest people in the U.S. So which state spends the most on lottery tickets? According to a research by Gallup, Massachusetts tops the list with $763 per person each year. South Dakota is the lowest at a measly $44. If you're in one of the 44 states and want a 100% chance of winning the Mega Millions, you'll need to spend $600 million on tickets. Of course, if 2 or more winners are announced, you'll have a huge loss on your hands. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
We are now halfway through the National Assembly's audit period. Issues up for debate on Monday were the country's monetary policy and a hiring scandal involving Seoul's subway operator. Kim Min-ji with the details.
A key issue at the audit of the Bank of Korea on Monday was when and whether its key rate will be raised. The central bank governor said that could be an option in November.
If the real economy fares well, then we will consider a rate hike. There are many risk factors that we have to assess, and the country's growth and inflation must not fall out of line.
There have been growing calls for a hike given the country's high household debt and the possibility of foreign capital outflow. But concerns linger as the country faces weak job growth and trade uncertainties. The ruling party said that the BOK's decision is extra important at a time like this.
It's a double-edged sword. In this situation, it'll make it extra important for the central bank to consider all these factors.
The Bank of Korea first and foremost focuses on growth and inflation, but we also have to consider risks regarding financial stability.
Another issue was whether the BOK is free from government pressure, which the governor said it is. The ruling party alleged that the previous conservative government pushed the central bank into multiple rate cuts, which triggered housing speculation and a rise in household debt. But the opposition argued that the current government has done the same thing, referring to recent remarks by top government officials on the need of a hike.
What do you have to say about the neutrality and independence of the central bank when it comes to monetary policy?
The board members that make the decision do not consider external remarks, and we do our best to make the best decision based on what the law requires us to do.
At the Seoul Metropolitan Government audit, the hot potato was the hiring scandal involving the operator of the Seoul subway. The opposition said that by giving job favors to the relatives of their workers, it's deprived young people of jobs. The ruling party criticized the opposition for politicizing the issue based on groundless allegations. During the inspection of the state-run Korea Development Bank, the issue was GM Korea's decision to spin off its research arm and whether this was part of plans to exit the country. GM Korea has already shut down one of its 4 factories because of heavy losses, and KDB, a shareholder of the U.S. carmaker, is currently providing a financial lifeline. The state-run bank said it doesn't see it that way, and GM Korea also said the spin-off is part of broader restructuring plans. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, in some economic news, South Korea's producer prices hit a high not seen in more than 5 years in September. The nation's central bank says this summer's extremely hot weather affected the selling prices received by domestic producers. Go Ryun-hee explains.
Data released by Korea's central bank hints that consumer prices will rise in the coming months. The Bank of Korea revealed Tuesday that last month's producer price index, a key barometer of future inflation, hit its highest level since August 2013. September's index hit 105.78, which is 0.3% higher than the previous month. This is a 2.7% increase from the same period last year and extends the on-year streak of gains to a 23rd straight month. In particular, producer prices of agricultural goods rose 1.6% compared to the previous month, mainly because of the record heat wave this summer. In August, temperatures in Seoul sizzled at a 111-year high, and the intensity of the heat wave led to supply shortages. Prices of tomatoes soared by a whopping 96.7%, and bell peppers jumped by 92.6% over the same period. The overall producer price index for agricultural, forestry, and marine products marked its highest point since related figures were first compiled in 2000. Meanwhile, prices of manufacturing products rose by 0.3% on month due to rising international oil prices. Coal and petroleum products prices increased by 3.4%. The Bank of Korea added the prices of utilities, electricity, gas, and water also spiked 1.5% because the government's revision to the progressive electricity billing rates only came into effect in August. Ko Ryun-hee, Arirang News.
Now, BMW Group Korea will voluntarily recall nearly 66,000 BMWs and Minis to repair faulty parts. This according to the Transport Ministry on this Tuesday. The ministry said the German car maker's recall will begin on November 26th and involve 52 models. The vehicles subject to recall include over 7,000 BMW 118D compact cars and over 23,000 Mini Cooper D models, which have been found to have faulty exhaust gas recirculation coolers and pipes. The so-called EGR issue has been acknowledged by BMW as the root cause of dozens of engine fires in the 520D sedan in South Korea this year. The number of major violent conflicts across the world has tripled since 2010. To bring about a change, preventing violence instead of addressing outbreaks after they fully evolve is key, according to the United Nations and the World Bank. As such, they are calling on the international community to focus on preventive measures. Cha Sang-mi went to learn more from the authors of a joint report by the two global bodies.
The world has seen a dramatic surge of violent conflicts, the number tripling since 2010. Reported battle-related deaths in 2016 jumped tenfold from the post-Cold War low of 2005, and the number of terrorist attacks across the world has peaked over the past 10 years. To address the serious global issue, the United Nations and the World Bank issued a joint report called The Pathways for Peace and presented the content on Monday in Seoul. Citing a rise in the number of displaced people, deaths in war, military spending, and terrorist incidents, the international institutions say violent conflicts are no longer limited to low-income countries, breaking the long-standing assumption that income growth is accompanied by peace.
After the end of the Cold War in 1989, you really see different kinds of wars developing. A lot of the civil wars and the Cold War came to an end, and now you see a lot of non-state actors emerging. You can see strong links between transnational organized crime organizations and terrorist group that function partly as transnational organized crime group with kidnapping and trafficking of drugs and arms to make the money.
The UN and the World Bank say that the pathway to peace lies in the prevention of the risk of violence, rather than focusing on addressing outbreaks and violence that have fully evolved. Alexander Mark, the lead author of the report, says that the prevention is a lot more cost-effective.
The result is that we calculate that about $1 put in successful prevention represents $16 saved in conflict cost. So prevention, whatever way you work it, even in the most pessimistic perspective, if you succeed only one time on 4, allowed to save about $5 billion per year to the world.
And with the forum taking place in Seoul, international leaders hailed South Korea for developing so much in a short period of time, as a country that transitioned from an aid recipient to one of the leading donors. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
Good morning. Regions in the west are having lots of clouds this morning as rain clouds are gradually approaching western regions and will drop showers of less than 5 millimeters until lunch hour. But the rain will not be enough to wash away the ultra-fine dust in the air in the capital area and Chungcheong-do Provinces. So it's dusty right now, and even after the showers, the air quality will remain poor. But today is Sangang. The seasonal indicator refers to frost descent and marks the end of autumn. But temperatures for today will not be too bad. It will actually be slightly higher than yesterday. Highs will range between 17 to 21 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. Seoul, Daejeon, Daegu getting up to 19 degrees. And regions in the east, including Daegu and Busan, will have mostly sunny skies along with normal air quality. Now, showers on Friday will bring the temperatures even lower, so expect to see highs only in the mid-teens starting this weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll have our next newscast at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.
Mukbang is all the rage these days. One-man content creators from Korea have set ablaze a new global trend. Type in mukbang on YouTube and you retrieve tons of videos showing people eating delicious food. We recommend to you 3 Korean dishes for mukbang. For bibimbap, place various veggies such as shiitake mushroom, cucumber and carrot, as well as a fried egg on rice, and mix everything with gochujang and sesame oil. It is known for its colorful appearance and variety of ingredients that is affordable and easy to eat. Try grilling some samgyeopsal on a grill right in front of you. Once fully cooked, dip in samjang and wrap it in lettuce and sesame leaf with garlic. This practice of cooking meat on a grill built into the table has originated in Korea, and generally people enjoy Korean barbecue with soju, a traditional Korean liquor. Fried chicken is of course found elsewhere in the world, but Korea is particularly famous for its unique style of fried chicken with some varieties offered with a special sauce. Tons of different recipes have been developed over the years with the use of various ingredients such as garlic, honey, green onion, soy sauce and more. Just as samgyeopsal and soju make a perfect pair, Korean-style chicken is enjoyed with beer. These 3 addictive dishes present difficult choices for Koreans every evening. What would you want to try for a mukbang?
Literally speaking, the mind engraved on paper. Paper comforter. Where to go now?